he has a child with this handmaid. And Ishmael comes into this world, and God even promises Ishmael after Sarah, in her jealousy, casts them out, that they eventually Ishmael eventually becomes the father of the Islamic world, the Islamic culture. But eventually, Abraham and Sarah get their prayer answered. God answers their prayer, and they have a child, Isaac. So now Abraham has this wish that he's always wanted so much. The next thing he knows, Isaac is now getting close to 11, 12 years of age, and God says, Abraham, I want you, as proof and as love for me, I want you to sacrifice Isaac. Now, we can speculate what's going through Abraham's mind. I mean, this is his only flesh and blood, his only son, but his love for God, his faith in God, supersedes any love that he has for Sarah and for Isaac, his only child. So much so that he basically lies to Sarah about what his plan is, to take Isaac hunting and take him up to the mountain where he's going to sacrifice him on an altar. And as he takes Isaac with him, Isaac is looking around saying, Dad, where's the ram? Where's the animal we're going to be sacrificing? And with that, Abraham bounds Isaac and puts him on the altar. And he's getting ready to sacrifice the one and only heir to his life. And he's got the knife up in the air, and he's about to plunge it into his only son. And God says, wait, stop. Abraham, don't do that. It was a test, and you passed the test with flying colors. I just wanted to know how much faith, how much love you have for me, and you've clearly shown that. And this is my own personal opinion, but I think Abraham, you sometimes wonder, God has such an influence over us. At any point in time do our own actions influence God? And I think this is one example where God was so moved by Abraham's love for him that it gave God the idea of how he could remove that chasm between us and him from the original sin that occurred back in the Garden of Eden. He said, you know what? I think the greatest way to show my love for all of these children is to sacrifice my son, bring a son into this world. I think Abraham and Abraham's actions and willingness to sacrifice his one and only son influenced God to bring Jesus into the world so that he may be sacrificed so that we could be saved. Just my own personal opinion, I don't know. But that was one example of unconditional faith, unconditional obedience to God's call. Now we go to Jonah. My understanding of Jonah is he's about, you can help me on this one, Pastor Kim, about 17, 18 years old. So he's definitely on the opposite side of the spectrum as far as age is concerned. He doesn't really have a family of his own yet. God calls him to save the people of Nineveh from their sins. He wants them to send a message. Hey, Jonah, these people need to repent. And what does Jonah do? What's his action? No, I'm going to Trishna, and I'm getting on a boat. I'm getting out of here. Pass the cup to someone else. God, it's not me. That's not my thing. I like living under the radar. It's uncool. I've got my life. I've got my way of doing things. I don't want to be part of this. So he goes off, gets into a boat with a few other guys on the boat, and God's like, no, Jonah, I really need you to do this. And he stirs up the sea. And Jonah, as young as he is, he has a conscience. He was raised by a good father. He has a conscience, and he realizes the reason why the sea is stirring up and the boat's going a little lopsided is because he's disobeying. And he's like, I can't let these guys take the rap for my disobedience. So he comes clean with the rest of the guys. He says, guys, I know why the sea is going. I disobeyed, so I'm going to jump out of the boat. I'm going to sacrifice myself. he winds up in the belly of a whale. And he's in there for 3 days. The number 3, just off the side tangent, if you notice in the pattern as you're reading in the Bible, the number 3 and the number 40 come up a lot. So in this case, he's in the belly of the whale for 3 days, and he realizes, I don't know, getting digested by a swimming mammal is not the way to go. Just, there are more glories. I mean, hey, you die in battle. That's a real man's way to go. But my dad has to tell the neighbors, yeah, my son got digested by a fish. That's not going to go over very well. And God's like, I'm going to give you a second shot. And he saves Jonah. He says, okay, you need to do this. And finally, Jonah says, all right. And takes him 3 days to go back to Nineveh. And he spends 40 days working on the people in Nineveh, telling them that they need to repent. And eventually, he succeeds in doing that. And God's response, unlike Abraham, where God responded to Abraham's unconditional obedience by making him the father of all nations, giving him the number of heirs that would rival the number of stars in the heavens, God shows his love to Jonah. He gives him a plant where he can find refuge. Of course, he's still not total. He loves Jonah, and he's not thrilled with him right now. So as soon as morning comes, he plucks that plant out. And you're on your own. Come on, keep going. So he doesn't punish Jonah, but he does discipline him, and there's a big difference. And something that I feel I need to emphasize. Satan punishes. Satan makes your life miserable. Satan does things to keep you from growing. God disciplines. He may make things a little uncomfortable for you. He may take you out of your comfort zone. He may even make you feel a little sad. But ultimately, he moves you forward. And that's the difference. Always understand that. That's very important. So we have two extremes here. We have two examples of an obedient person in the Bible and a not so obedient person in the Bible. Then we come to Mary. Mary seems like an in-between. Mary, 16 years old. She's young. She's perfect in God's eyes. So much so that God decides to make her the vessel to carry this son that he wants to sacrifice so that we can be saved. Now, Mary is aware of angels, but she is now going to experience a real one-on-one as Gabriel comes in and says, Mary, God finds favor in you, and you are going to be carrying his son into the world. And she's a little bit apprehensive, but she's willing to go. She's willing to obey. But it's not with the same fervent obedience as Abraham, because here's why. This is how humble and so wonderful and perfect Mary is. She's afraid she's not good enough. She's questioning God's judgment, which still, whether we like it or not, is still not truly, completely, unconditionally obeying God's call. Now, her reward for ultimately giving birth to God's son, is that she becomes the mother of God. But at the same time, when you think about it, she also was disciplined, and here's why. Ask any mother who's had to bury their child if they felt that knowing the reason why their child died was because to glorify God, if that made their grief any easier. It's still very painful. So in a way, she went through a moment of discipline. Finally, we get to the disciples. Simon, Andrew, James, and John. Jesus comes to them, says, come follow me. I'll make you fisher. They were fishermen. I'll make you a fisher of men. They just dropped their nets. Simon and Andrew, they leave their dad in the boat. They're like, Dad, we're going to follow this guy. What? Yeah, that guy over there.
Very good.
Have fun. And they go and they follow. Now, my next question is, what was the difference? What made it easier for those four gentlemen to follow Jesus versus the other three. What was, I'll give you a hint, it has to do with at least 3 of the 5 senses. They saw him, they heard him, and let's face it, there wasn't the level of bathing that was going on. They might have even smelled him. He was human. He took human form. And they didn't have deodorant. So they had something tangible, whereas the other 3 had to go strictly on faith. Now that leads me to my own personal testimony. And it's this point, I'd like you to bear with me. I'm going to read to you my call story. I'll try to be as quickly as possible. But just before, I think we forgot to read the message. So let's just go through and read the message, which is Luke 12, 22 through 31. And he said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you shall eat, nor about your body, what you shall put on. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They neither have storehouse nor barn, and yet God feeds them. And how much more value are you than the birds? And which one of you can be anxious by adding a cubit to his span of life? If then you are not able to do as small a thing as that, why are you anxious about the rest? Consider the lilies, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, and yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like the one of these. But if God so clothes the grass which is alive in the field today, and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more will he clothe you? O men of little faith, do not seek what you are about to eat and what you are about to drink, nor be anxious of mind. For all the nations of the world seek these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, seek his kingdom, and these things shall be yours as well." And then in addition, I added Matthew 6:34. And it's important because it says, "Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Let the day's own trouble be sufficient for the day." And that was my issue that I struggled with when I heard God's call. So this is my story. 4 months after I had completed my second cycle of grief share, I wanted to give back to the church, to God, and to community. The program helped me heal from my intense pain after losing my mom and my husband. Sitting in Christ Church United Methodist Saturday night service late fall of 2014, I felt God's call. And it scared me because right after I felt this strong rumble, like a quake singling me out, earthquake, a thought came to my mind: leave my job and dedicate my life to ministry. I fought this thought as I sat in my seat waiting for the service to end. My mind was a battlefield between my selfish needs and desires and God's will and plan for my life, trusting that he would provide my needs and desires. One voice in my head asked, how can you justify leaving a job that has provided you with financial security, guaranteed independence, and zero reliance on family members? Another voice said, Lena, stop worrying. God will provide everything for you. Think back and recall the times he has come through for you. You say you have faith in him. You said it in the past because your false sense of financial security made it easy for you. This security is going to disappear in the near future. The loss is just around the corner, even though there is no sign of it now. These thoughts were frightening omens to me. I sensed a terrible and illogical foreboding about my livelihood that I had never thought I had to face. Seconds later, other fears, vivid fears, filled my mind. I pictured myself homeless and financially destroyed and requiring family members to bail me out. I pictured losing medical benefits and my pension going up in smoke and dying a lonely, terrible death. I wanted nothing to do with God's plan for my life and ministry. I couldn't wait for the service to be over. The service ended, and I made a beeline to the pastor and shared my experience with him. He laughed and he said, Lena, let me tell you a story about a guy who cried all the way to seminary on the back of a pickup truck after leaving law school to follow God's call to ministry. He suggested that I arrange a meeting with the pastors to discuss the matter, and in January 2015, I met with the pastors. It was agreed that I was not ready to follow God's will for my life. They advised me to take a year to learn how to listen to God, develop my discernment, take classes, and get involved with church ministries. I took the Alpha class at First United Methodist Church and later became a table leaner for the Alpha class at Christ Church. I attended lay servant basic training course and a gifts class. I discovered my top gifts were helps and services, healing and hospitality. I did my walk to Emmaus, facilitated 4 cycles of grief share, and joined Celebrate Recovery. Still hesitant to leave my job and follow God's plan for my life, God decided it was time to pull me out of the belly of the whale. Things changed for the worse at work. 2016 was one of the most stressful years of my life. I knew I was getting pushed out of my job, and the experience left me almost completely spiritually broken. God never stopped pulling at my heart to follow him. The pastors got me a copy of Understanding God's Call to Ministry, Inquiry Process, and God found me a mentor. I changed jobs, joined the Emmaus team, acquired a sponsor at Celebrate Recovery, where I'm the announcer and lead the worship service and prayer and occasionally give a lesson. I signed up with Christian Leadership Institute, earned 2 certificates, and the Institute introduced me to bivocational ministry, which allows someone to practice ministry part-time and while holding a full-time job in another discipline. God's will and plan for my life was finally clear to me. I studied to become a lay servant minister. A feeling of peace filled my heart, soul, body, and mind. Now let me add a little bit of the story. Back in 2016, I dared myself to take a bucket list trip to Austria. And I did. I went to Austria. I'm all by myself. No tour group, just me. I was sitting in the hotel room, and that, what I call the 11th hour, that time when it gets very quiet. And it's not a good quiet, it's an uneasy quiet. Yes, they do. Even the TV set didn't speak English. My cell phone, my electronic crutch, where I could call somebody after feeling lonely, didn't work. So I was vulnerable, and I just said, okay, you got me. I'm helpless, I'm defenseless. Go ahead, do your worst, just make it quick and get it over with. And then at that moment I had an urge. I saw the Bible. The Bible was written, that Bible was written in English. I opened it up. I wish I had remembered the page. I don't even remember the page I opened it to, but then I felt this calm. And here I was, this 11th hour that had haunted me for quite a while after my mom and my husband passed away. And I hear this voice. And it said, Lena, it's me. It's your father. It's the Lord. I'm not here to hurt you. Jeremiah 29:11. It's not a lie. I love you. I truly know I have a plan for you. I know the plan I have for you. It's one of welfare. It's not of evil. It's one of real hope and a great future. All you have to do is 3 little words. Remember the magic word number 3? Obey my call. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
You guys don't know what kind of courage it took for her to do this. I think she did awesome. God spoke to her this evening. Everybody agree with that? So we thank her for coming, and I'm very happy for her. She came here just a bundle of nerves, and we prayed that she would get out of the way. Let God speak through her, for her. I think she did that tonight. So thank you very much. Okay, I think the kitchen angels are hard at work back there. I think they got caught up with the message here, so I guess I got to buy some time here. So, do some more singing. All right, we don't have the words up here, but I think you all know this song. We've done it a few times. Come out of sadness from wherever you've been. Come broken-hearted, rescue begin. Find your mercy, O sinner, come kneel. Earth has no sorrow, but heaven can heal. Earth has no sorrow, but heaven can heal. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame.
Food is ready. That's it. feet.